my favorite verses, God says, I'm a jealous God, right? Well, that doesn't mean that he's insecure, freaking out, if he's not watching us every moment, which he does, but you get where the analogy is going there. There's a good side of jealousy. It's a protective emotion. When there is a threat of the loss of love, because jealousy really is about losing a love as opposed to envy. It's about having something we don't have. Well, jealousy is about loss. And when we have a relationship and it is threatened by a third party, then, it's sort of like, it's like the mama bear and her cubs, right? You see that I'm going to protect them. Well, that's a little bit how jealousy works. So here you've got part of what it means to be a human is to want to protect love that you might lose, that's gone overactive to protecting love that you're not losing. Right? So what she's saying here is there is no reason for him to feel this way. Haven't done anything, to make it happen. So what do you do then? Well, now you've got the dual problem of that he's got an issue, right? And that issue is causing also a relationship issue because, if any of us has any insecurity or anything, that's one thing. But if we say, you know, I'm kind of prone to this, I've got an issue with this, I'm hypersensitive, or I have a tendency towards isolation, or I have a tendency towards interrupting, or I have a tendency toward whatever it is our issue is. If we're owning that and then we're working with it, then the person on the other side of it, the spouse, the husband, the wife, the friend, whoever, then they can enter in easily and become part of how can I help you? But it's not an enabling help. For example, let's say somebody's a germaphobe, okay? And they own it. They say, okay, I'm trying to get over my problem here. Well, the spouse can enter in and say, okay, let's take a step. I'll touch the dirt first. And, this, that, and the other. What they don't do is join the delusion, okay? Because it can get really delusional. Join it and okay, I'll go on your path of, we never touch anything because then that kind of reinforces it. So when it gets to places where the first thing that I would ask you here is to what degree have you guys talked about that instead of you just defending this, saying, no, nothing's happening, this, and the other, to sit down and say, you know what, I love you. Um, and I want to be close to you, but it's a little hard to get close to you sometimes when you're treating me as if we're not together, as if we're not one. You're treating me as if I'm gonna, go do something that I'm really not gonna do. And so I think I've shown that to you. I think I've proven that to you. So have you ever like really considered that some of this jealousy might be a problem that's coming from somewhere else? It's not, I mean, every wife in the world is going to walk down the street, but they don't get this. I mean, is there anything I'm doing that you can point to that's abnormal? Because if it is, I mean, if I'm walking up to strange men on the street and, licking their cheek or something, but I'm not doing that, right? I probably wouldn't use that example, but you get my point. I'm not doing anything weird. I'm doing things that have to be done for life, but that's triggering something in you. And I would see if he could engage in a conversation of, have you ever really thought about that something's making you feel insecure, but it's not me. Now, it may be you said you're the third wife. Was he cheated on? Was he cheated on in one of the previous marriages? But my hunch is because this gets to when he says you're lying, that's when it crosses a line where trust is really either not been built or broken down, getting interfered with. So I would try to see how much ability he has to look at this. And I would say, it really is interfering with our connection. I'd like to go talk to a counselor together about this. And we need some, we need to understand, what do I do when you start grilling me? I don't want to be answering all the time to things that aren't a problem. I want us to get past this. Now, here's another few points that you might want to talk about. One of them, or I should put this, it's all under the rubric of trust, right? So where does trust come from? You want to tell him, I want you to trust me, and say, I watched this crazy psychologist on, YouTube today or Facebook, and he said that trust comes from 5 areas. So let's talk about these 5 areas. In fact, go to boundaries.me and pull up the trust course. But number one is how much connection we feel. Do you feel like I understand you and what's important to you? Do you feel like I understand that it would be so painful to you if I ever crossed any line in this way, and you know that I care about it. I understand and I care. Number two, what do you feel like my motive in our relationship is? My intent. Do you feel like that I wake up in the morning and I kind of have intentions to go away from our marriage? Let's talk about that. Number three, do you think I have the capability to, the the competency to, if the policeman did wink at me or hit on me, the the competency to stand up to that? You think I'm strong enough to stand up to people's advances? Then you could trust me out there. Number four, my character. Do you do you really think I'm a liar? Do you think I'm duplicitous? Let's talk about what would help you to know, based on, knowing me about my character, that I'm not gonna do this. And then the fifth thing is the track record. When have I ever done anything that would make you fear? And so sometimes, if you can make the conversation objective about the elements of trust, then you could do this. But I would, if he's at the point where he's calling you a liar, what that's saying is that in the dyad, the fear is so much that he can't receive your message. That's when we go to a third party. So I would add counseling to the mix.